What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film. And today we got another ranking for you guys. We're ranking all 13 Stanley Kubrick films. Stanley Kubrick, a pretty well-known filmmaker. He's done, some classics, made some classic movies. I am a big Kubrick fan. I do like a lot of his films. I think there's only a couple of movies on this list, the bottom two, that I probably wouldn't really come back to. At least I wouldn't go out of my way to revisit. But most of these films have a pretty good rating from me, and especially the top few here are just great films. So if you're a Kubrick fan, if you like Stanley Kubrick, let me know your list of his movies in the comment section. And if you aren't too familiar with Kubrick, hopefully these ranking videos can also give you guys new movies to check out if you haven't seen them. That's one reason I like doing these rankings, is because hopefully it gives film lovers or people checking out my channel that maybe haven't seen some of these movies a new set or list of movies to watch and check out. So we're gonna get right into this video. Just as a reminder, guys, this is just my opinion on these movies. No need to be upset or offended by anything I have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We're gonna go from worst to best. As always, let's get rocking. So coming in at number 13, at the bottom here, is Kubrick's first feature film, and that is Fear and Desire. I think it's from 1956, somewhere around there. 2-star film. It's a mess. So originally, when I was putting my list together, I actually had these bottom two films flopped. So I had them swapped. And when I went to go ahead and record this, I decided to put this one at the bottom and the next one above it. Just because as I started thinking about it more, this really isn't a good film. And even a 2-star rating, some might argue could be a little bit generous for the film. It maybe belongs more about 1.5 stars. But I do think that this film, it's one of those movies that it's so much of a train wreck that it actually kind of comes back around to actually being kind of entertaining. That's kind of my experience with Fear and Desire. It's not a good film. I certainly would not argue that it's a good film, but it's such a mess that I actually kind of get a kick out of it, and I do actually find the mess of it to be somewhat entertaining. It's one of those, I don't want to look away. Like, you want to look away, but you don't, because you're actually entertained by the train wreck. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. We all have those movies that we know this is a bad film, but we're entertained by how bad it is. One of those so bad it's good type of scenarios. Although I wouldn't say this is a good film, but it's at least somewhat entertaining for me because of just how bad it is. Kubrick hated this film. He did everything he could to try to scrap it and wipe it out of existence. But unfortunately for him, it is still available. You can find it in the archives somewhere. So, 2-star film, not very good. Coming in at number 12, we have Barry Lyndon from, I believe, 1975. This was the film that I originally had at the bottom, actually below Fear and Desire. I bumped it up slightly to 2.5-star film. It's still not a good movie. I would say this is a decent film, but man, I struggled to sit through this movie. It's like a 3-hour film. It's 3 hours too long, to be quite honest. I didn't really enjoy it. It dragged. It wore its runtime to the max. Like, this is a 3-hour film that feels like a 6-hour film. For me personally, I'm just not entertained. I'm not engaged. The main character, Barry Lyndon, the main protagonist that we're following in the film, is so incredibly boring. You know, I mean, I've seen dead fish that could generate more excitement and charisma than this guy. Like there's never any expression other than the scenes where he's crying, which anybody can like, you know, if you're crying, obviously there's going to be emotion there. But other than the couple of scenes where he's crying, like there's zero expression on his face. This is him for 3 hours of the film. People are mad at him. People are happy with him. He's supposed to be mad, happy, excited, whatever, in love. It's just this expression the whole time. And then there's two scenes where he cries, but it's like, dude, oh, this is so boring. And there's no charisma in his presence. He doesn't care. He doesn't command the screen. There's no charisma in his voice. He doesn't project his voice well. There's no charisma in his facial expression. Like the performance by the lead actor is just so dull and so bland. I just was so bored with this film, man. I didn't really care for the other characters in the movie. I tried to sit there and I tried to invest, and I just couldn't, man. It's so dull and so boring that I originally put this even below Fear and Desire. But as I thought about it more, this does have some production quality to it that it's got to be more respectable than Fear and Desire. And I do think it has a lot more potential than Fear and Desire. If you take out the main actor who plays the protagonist and you insert, I don't know, anybody, almost anybody in there that can generate more charisma and command the screen for 3 hours, this could be a lot, you know, a lot better of a film, and I could be much more engaged with the story. But as it is, oof, oof, this was rough. So 2.5 stars. It's number 12 for me. Coming in at number 11, we have Killer's Kiss, Kubrick's second feature film, I think from 1957, somewhere around there. This is a 3-star film, so this would be the first one on this list I would call a good film. I do think this is a good film. I like this film. I could certainly rewatch it again in the future. It's an interesting story. You can see Kubrick you know, starting to kind of find his style as a director, doing some cool things with the camera. I think he's got some good framing, some shots here that look pretty nice. He definitely did a better job at casting competent actors in this one from Fear and Desire. Like the acting here is much more improved than Fear and Desire, but and he actually put a story together that is pretty coherent, I would say. So it's a good film. What it suffers from for me is the lack of anything I think really deep. It's kind of a shallow film, and the characters I don't know were all that well written. And it's still, from a production wise, it's still not top form Kubrick. So yeah, a good film. I could certainly rewatch it again, but far from Kubrick's best. So, Killer's Kiss, number 11, 3-star film. Coming in at number 10, this one might get me in some trouble because I know this film has a pretty gnarly following, and that is A Clockwork Orange. Uh, 3.5-star film. All right, so I recognize its artistic genius, the geniusness here of Kubrick with the film. I would never argue that this is not competently made or isn't well made. I would never argue that. You can definitely see Kubrick knows what he's doing by this time. He's on his game. He knows what he's doing. Visually, he's, I think, telling the story from the script in a beautiful, masterful way. He's mastered his craft at this point, and it shows. everything in here, the color patterns, um, the contrasts, the framing, the shots, all that are very intentionally selected, and you can tell Kubrick knows the story, he knows the script, he knows what he's doing. I also think Malcolm McDowell turns into a very memorable, very iconic performance as the lead character in the movie. All of that is very good, and that's why it gets the 3.5 star rating. It is very competently made, and I can enjoy the artistic style of Kubrick in this film. What holds this movie back from being higher is the story itself. I just don't, this is not a story I care to revisit. It's a very kind of gross and unpleasant film to watch, and very unpleasant to sit through. And I get this. I see the story. I get what Kubrick was trying to say, but as a viewing experience, it's not a pleasant viewing experience really at all when you're following the story along. Artistically, yeah, it's beautifully shot, made, crafted, all that stuff. But from a storytelling standpoint, it's not a story that I care to revisit. Just not really any of the main characters here I don't really like. I don't invest in. They don't really have any redeemable qualities to them. Even the main character, played by Malcolm McDowell, we see ultimately at the end of the movie doesn't really change. He's still his really depraved, messed up self. So yeah, brilliant film technically on the technical front. Gets 3.5 stars for that. The acting is very good by the lead. Some of the supporting actors I think could have been a little better, to be honest. But yeah, Malcolm McDowell does a great job. But yeah, it comes back to the character and the story, neither being really anything I care to revisit. So, hot take, I know, because a lot of people love A Clockwork Orange. I get it to a degree. Artistically, I don't really get why anyone would love the story or the characters, but artistically, if you have this film higher because of that, I get it. But just for me, the other films have much more going for them. So Clockwork Orange, number 10 for me. Coming in at number 9, we have The Killing. I think this was Kubrick's third film, 58-ish. And yeah, a really good film. I do prefer this to A Clockwork Orange. Both are 3.5 stars. This one lacks the artistry, the artistic production quality of A Clockwork Orange, but it makes up for that with the character and stories. The story here is much more interesting. I'm much more engaged with the story here. The characters I find much more interesting and likable, and I think the pacing is better because I'm very much invested with it. So where and it's not like this is bad production or low quality filmmaking. It's not. Kubrick is certainly he's continuing to step up his game. Third film in, this is better than his second film. His second film was better than his first film. And that's what you want as a filmmaker. You want to improve with each film. You do. You want your newest film to be better than your last. And Kubrick is doing that through these first three films. So, yeah, I think this is better than his second film, but it's still not artistically to the level that A Clockwork Orange is at. But again, it makes up for that with character and story. So both are 3.5 star films, but I do find The Killing to be the more rewatchable of the two. I would be more likely to come back to The Killing than I would A Clockwork Orange. So The Killing gets the nod there at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have Eyes Wide Shut. This was Kubrick's last film. This was the final one he did before he died. I think he actually died before this one was actually released, if I'm not mistaken, because this one came out in 98 or 99, and I think that was the year that Kubrick died. I think if I remember the story right, he had a heart attack. He died during the post production of the film. So I don't think he actually got to see the release of it. But nonetheless, a very good film. It's got Tom Cruise and oh man, who was his wife? Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman. Both do a very good job in their performance in this film. It's a film that makes you think. At the end, the way that it ends, you're like, okay, I respect it. I respect the fact that these two individuals decide to stick together, which is not the norm of certainly not of today's society or today's marriage, today's marriages. The society pretty much tries to tell couples today that once things get hard, you can divorce, go your own way, and don't even try to work it out. The marriage covenant and marriage vow is not respected today. It's just not. You may not like that or whatever, but it's not. And if you want proof of that, just look at the divorce rates in our country. You can't sit there and honestly tell me that the marriage covenant and vows are actually respected by couples, because it's not. If it was, the divorce rate would be a lot lower. So I do respect the fact that this couple actually decide to stay together and actually try to work things out. They don't just throw in the towel and decide to walk away, even though based on what happens in the film, and I know there's different theories about whether or not Tom Cruise actually experienced everything or if it was a dream type situation. Regardless, both parties here, to a degree, did kind of break their vows, their marriage vows. So the fact that they decide to stay together, stick with it, and bait and try to keep their family together, try to keep that marriage intact. I respect that. That's worth a lot in my opinion. So 3.5 stars. This is the one film that has potential to go up to a 4-star rating for me. I have it at 3.5 right now, just because it does kind of drag a bit, and there are certain sequences like with Tom Cruise when he goes to the house, and it's the famous scene of the movie that everyone talks about. I just don't care for that kind of stuff. I get why it's there. It's very intentional. It's part of the story that Kubrick is telling. So it's not just filth for the sake of filth. It's not just nudity for the sake of nudity. It's serving a purpose to the story. So I get that. But it's just, again, it's not really pleasant to look at. And I find that some of the pacing here, I kind of check out at, a certain point. And I feel like both lead characters, you definitely see the struggle that they're having internally and externally. But yeah, it's a very good film. It's a very good film. I just don't know that rewatch value is all there for me personally. So yeah, possibly could go up in the future, but right now I'm keeping it at 3.5. It's number 8 for me. Coming in at number 7, we have Lolita. This is a 4-star film. Everything from here on up, 4 stars and higher. So, yeah, love this film. I thought this was a brilliant film by Kubrick. It gives you a feeling of like you're not. It makes you feel uneasy. It makes you feel very uncomfortable with the situation throughout the film, but you're supposed to feel that way. Like, this is a very unnatural romantic relationship with the guy and this girl Lolita. So you're supposed to feel that way. You're really not supposed to be pulling for the main character in this film. He's the one that's really in the wrong here. Like, he's kind of a pervert. Not kind of, he is a pervert. But the story is told through it's his story. But you're left the whole film. You're like, okay, you have some empathy for the guy a little bit, but at the same time, you're like, dude, you need to pursue someone else, homie. Like you got to find another fish in the sea because this is just wrong on a number of different levels. And everything that he does in the film, it's like it's a brilliant film because he's actually in a number of ways the antagonist, and yet the story is told through his story, his perspective. So it's a brilliant film. I think the acting is great, the storytelling is great, the editing is phenomenal. So yeah, it's told non-linearly by Kubrick. So yeah, I really enjoyed the film. It's got a deep meaning there, and it's a 4-star film. So number 7 for me, Lolita. Coming in at number 6, we have Paths of Glory. Um, Pretty popular, well-known war film by Stanley Kubrick. He did a couple of war films. Obviously, the other one I haven't mentioned yet, so that one's going to be higher. But Paths of Glory is this is a great film. It certainly is. I think that is it Michael Douglas? I always get the two Douglases mixed up. Michael Douglas and Kirk Douglas. Um, I think this is Kirk Douglas. Yeah, Michael Douglas is the other one. So Douglas does a great job. Kubrick does a great job with the directing. Um, what holds us back some for me is a couple of the characters. I don't necessarily buy some of the things that they do. If it feels very out of character. I don't remember because it's been a while now since I watched this. Um, this was like one of the first films I revisited when I was doing my Kubrick filmography thing. But there are a couple of characters that they make a couple of decisions like into the second act that felt very out of character for me, and I couldn't. It kind of made me check out at that point. I was like, I, I don't know that I can stay on board with these particular characters the rest of the film. So by the end, when they're trying to appeal to a certain cognitive response by the audience, it doesn't fully land for me because of what happens in that middle act. I don't remember exactly. I should have taken notes on it, but still a great film. It's still a great war film, told in an interesting way. The war part of the film is the first half, and then the consequences of the actions that take place by the characters in the war is the second half. And then it kind of culminates with a final kind of uh, result of kind of consequences of your actions type of story. Great film, but I think that Kubrick's other war film was the better of the two. Paths of Glory, number 6 for me. Coming in at number 5, we have Spartacus. Yeah, this is a great film. It's, an epic. It's set in kind of that epic scale. It's about a 3-hour film, and it's about the story of Spartacus, basically. And, I think this was the first color film that Kubrick did. I think all his other films prior to this were black and white. This was his first colored film. And I think for the most part, it's shot pretty well. There are a couple of scenes where the lighting, it hurts my eyes when I look at it because it's not lit very well. Um, and the ending, I don't know, it works, but it doesn't work at this at the same time, and that's a contradiction. But yeah, it's hard for me to explain. I just feel like the lady, the main girl, Spartacus's wife, she kind of gives away who she is at the end by her response to seeing Spartacus hung up on the cross. Like, she's trying to get out of this city, out of this place, undetected, like trying to get out without people knowing that she's Spartacus's wife. But the way that she reacts to seeing Spartacus kind of gives her away. And the fact that no one catches this, it's kind of like, I want to be investing here because this is the climax of the story. But there's also this kind of plot hole here that I'm also trying to have to work through, and it works, but it doesn't work. And then some of the lighting issues, it's shot with natural light, so I get it, but yeah. Anyways, Spartacus is a great film. I do really enjoy it. I know Kubrick wasn't that big on this film either, but I do think this is a great film, and I did really enjoy it. Spartacus number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have Full Metal Jacket, the other war film by Stanley Kubrick. This is the better of the two. I do love Full Metal Jacket. This is also a 4-star film, so it's not like a whole tier above Paths of Glory. Both have a few setbacks, but Full Metal Jacket I just find a little bit more rewatchable. It is a brilliant film. It's got a great story to it that Kubrick tells in a pretty significant way. And certainly that first half with being at boot camp, and you kind of get the feeling, if you've never been in the military, you kind of get a feeling about what military boot camp is like. I certainly remember my boot camp, and going through that, and this movie brings back those memories for me. But it's a great film. I think that Arlie Ermy does an iconic role as the drill sergeant, drill instructor, very believable in that. And because I think he actually was a drill instructor in the Marines. I know he was in the Marines, but I can't remember if he was actually a drill instructor or not. But he's a natural at that. And yeah, great film. Kubrick, brilliant story that's told in a great way. I'm trying not to spoil any of these films for anyone that hasn't seen them, but it is graphic, especially in the second half, and when they're in the war, and some of the stuff that happens. It is a little bit graphic, but it's not like the most graphic war film ever. And I do think the characters are pretty well written. So yeah, Full Metal Jacket for me, the better of the two war films by Kubrick, and 4-star film. It's number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3, we have Doctor Strangelove. Yeah, this was, I think, the only film, unfortunately, that Kubrick got an Oscar nomination for. I can't remember if he won for Best Director on this or not. I know he was nominated. He should have been nominated for at least a couple other films for sure. But the Academy has a pretty long track record of giving filmmakers in certain films the shaft. They're not the most most objective or fair film award ceremony or whatever, unfortunately, because they're the most prestigious. But yeah, we won't get into that. Doctor Strangelove is a great film. Peter Sellers just on point in this film, just full on Peter Sellers, and a very good performance because he's playing 3 different characters, and he gives each of them their own personality. This movie is so funny, man. Like it's this political comedy surrounding the apocalypse of the nuclear war, nuclear bomb, and just the ending of this film has me dying, bro. I'm dying. The last the last line by Peter Sellers, which was actually improvised, by the way, by Peter Sellers. He's plays Doctor Strangelove, and he's in this wheelchair. And at the end of the movie, he actually accidentally, in the scene, he accidentally stands up, and he improvises his last line, which is "My fear, I'm standing," or "My fear, look, I can stand," or something like that. And it's the way that he says it, and the fact that that's the last line of the movie, it cracks me up every time, because it's so good and it was so well improvised. but it's a movie with actually a lot of deep meaning, in the film. It's not just a fun comedic political film. Kubrick is actually saying something, I think, pretty significant in the story. I do think it's well shot. The characters are great. The performances are very good. I love the one soldier guy with one of the other characters that Peter Sellers plays, and he's trying to get a phone call. He's trying to phone up the president so he can warn him about some incoming uh, uh, fire, uh, like fire strikes or whatever. And the soldier's like this officer is like holding him up, and Sellers tells him something like, "Look, if you don't let me call the president, you'll have to answer to the higher ups, the powers that be, or whatever." And the officer tells him, he's like, "Well, if you don't get the president on the line, then you'll have to answer to the Coca-Cola company." It's just like, again, the comedy here works, man. It works so well. If you haven't checked out Doctor Strangelove, do yourself a favor and check it out. Great film, and very well directed, well written, and it's number 3. It's a 4.5-star film. I love it. Great time. Coming in at number 2, and I'll just go ahead and say both my 1 and 2 are both 5-star films. These are top 2 are just, they're perfect in my opinion. They're both masterpieces. My number 2 is 2001, Space Odyssey. I think this movie is the very definition of a cinema experience. If you just want a cinema experience, watch 2001. Ideally on a big screen. Like, I don't know, obviously we're all limited, and we can only have what we can afford, so I get that if you don't have like the biggest screen or whatever, or best surround sounds or whatever. But ideally, this film, if you can just watch this film at least in a setting where you can just immerse yourself in the experience and the story of the film, it's an incredible ride, incredible experience, and so ahead of its time. I mean, there's nothing like this in 1968 when this film came out. There's nothing like this. I mean, Kubrick was so far ahead of the game, with this film. The fact that, it was all built, this was before the days of CGI, so there's no computer graphics and stuff like that. Like this, the sets were built. It just looks incredible. It's an incredible experience, and it's got a really great story at the heart of it, that I think is, if you can go there, if you can read it, I highly doubt it's what Kubrick initially intended for the story to be. But I think if you're a Christian, or if you have, Christian ethics or morals, or, Christian teachings in your life, I think there's something actually very deep there, ultimately about the root of idolatry, and the fact that we, as humans, worship the creation rather than the creator. We are so defiant to accept God, to accept a higher power, that we turn our worship from where it should be to God, and we worship and serve the creation and the created order rather than the creator. And again, highly doubt that's what Kubrick was trying to say, because he wasn't Christian. But yeah, I think it's deep. It's very deep, and just a masterful film, man. Just such a great movie. 2001, 5-star film. It's a masterpiece. But coming in at number 1, of course, the only one I haven't mentioned, and that is The Shining. 1980, Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall. Man, just a masterpiece of cinema. A great horror film. It's still one of the greatest horror films of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Kubrick nailed it. He nailed it. And it's different from the novel. I haven't read the novel, but I know Stephen King wasn't a fan of this movie, because it went away from the novel. It kind of did its own thing, which I'm perfectly fine for. Look, people have to understand, film is a different medium of storytelling than books are. Like, books and screenplays are two different forms of writing. The rules of writing a novel, the rules of writing a book are not the same when it comes to writing a screenplay. And films are made from that screenplay. So what may apply to a book doesn't necessarily apply to screenplay. So you can't judge a movie by a book. Those are apples and oranges. They're not the same method of storytelling. Also, the filmmaker has carte blanche to make the story he wants to make. He doesn't have to tell the exact same story that's in a book. He can take aspects of that book, aspects of that story, and tell it in a different way. Because guess what? It's called, if he was just copying pasting the book onto the screen, guess what that's called? It's called plagiarism. Okay, I don't make the rules. That's what it is. So I like the route that Kubrick went down with this movie, telling a different story that I think it works and it's a lot more effective, and quite frankly is a lot more accurate, I would argue, as a Christian, to the heart of man than what is in the novel. Again, I haven't read the novel, but I've heard quite a bit about it. I know where it goes, what the trajectory is. And I personally think that what Kubrick did with The Shining is a much better and more accurate story to what's actually going on in the heart of man. So, great film, great performances. Nicholson is great. Yeah, it's a blast. It's a can of corn, man. It's the best. So, yeah, that is my favorite Stanley Kubrick film of all time. 5-star films, no question. But let me know your thoughts on Kubrick in the comment section. Are you a fan of Kubrick? Do you not like Kubrick? What's your favorite Kubrick film? Have you seen all his films? How would you rank his anything and everything you want to let me know in the comment section? All I ask that you be respectful about it. And until next time, you freaks, kick it and rock on.